The third session of the Senate in the second regular session of the 16th Congress is hereby called to order. The Senate President Pro Tempore, Senator Ralph G. Recto, will lead the chamber in prayer.
Thank you, Mr. President, Almighty God, our refuge and our strength. We thank you for gathering us in this chamber, even in the midst of confusion, dissatisfaction, and cynicism, that weaken the foundation of our democratic institutions. Allow us to find comfort in the thought that your faithfulness is enduring, and that your knowledge of our yearnings, struggles, and pains is infinite. We are inspired by your promise that you will not forsake us, especially when we are troubled and helpless. We come before you meek and humble, seeking your wisdom and guidance, that we may remain steadfast in our dedication to serve the common good with integrity despite the many distractions. Remember with mercy and compassion our colleagues who are unable to join us in this hall today. In whatever circumstances they may be, continue to embrace them with your peace and love. Help them to carry their burdens and look upon them with kindness and understanding. Open our hearts and minds as we find ways to alleviate our people's suffering, strengthen their hope, respond to their cry for help, and lead them to a better life. Lord, please hear our prayers. Amen.
Amen. The POEA Chorale will lead the chamber in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, after which they'll render a song entitled Pilipinas Kong Mahal.
Bayang magiliw, peres ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyang ka ng mag-iping, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisiin. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy, sa langit mong baghaw, may dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidingding, ang bituin at araw ng kailan, pamay di mabidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhating pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya ng pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Ang bayan ko'y tanging ikaw, Pilipinas kong mahal, ang puso ko
Marami pong salamat. Thank you very much to the PUEA Chorale for that rendition of the Philippine National Anthem and the song entitled Pilipinas Kong Mahal. Marami pong salamat. The Secretary will now call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero S, Cayetano P.S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Unasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Trilon.
19 senators are present. The chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader? Sabi mo na kayo. Majority Leader?
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference. Sorry, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the second session, July 30, 2014, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? The chair hears none. The reading of the journal of Wednesday, July 30, 2014 is hereby dispensed with. And upon motion of the Majority Leader, the same is hereby approved.
Mr. President, before I move to proceed with the reference of business, may I just make a manifestation that due to the absence of Senator Enrile, our Minority Leader, the Senior Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Vicente Soto III, will be acting Minority Leader, and to assist him, Senator Gregorio Gringo Nason II will assist him as a Deputy Minority Leader, Mr. President.
Duly noted. For the record, this is a letter from the Minority Leader, Senator Juan Ponce Enrile.
Yes, Mr. President.
And we place of record that this is with the concurrence of the minority group, Senator Binay, Senator Ejercito, Senator Honasan. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will read the reference of business.
Messages from the House of Representatives. Letters from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 10 June 2014 it approved the Conference Committee report on the disagreeing provisions of the following: House number 4595, entitled An Act Promoting the Development of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises, and Senate number 2046, entitled An Act Promoting the Reduction of Poverty through the Development of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises. House number 3984, entitled An Act Allowing the Full Entry of Foreign Banks in the Philippines, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 7721, and Senate number 2159, entitled An Act Amending Republic Act number 7721, otherwise known as An Act Liberalizing the Entry and Scope of Operations of Foreign Banks in the Philippines and for other purposes. House number 4082, entitled An Act Strengthening Consumer Protection in the Purchase of Brand New Vehicles, and South Senate number 2211, entitled An Act Strengthening Consumer Protection in the Purchase of Brand New Motor Vehicles and for other purposes.
To the archives.
Bills on first reading. Senate number 2298, An Act Providing for the Increase in the Rate and Changing of the Time Window of the Night Shift Differential as provided by the Labor Code of the Philippines, Senator Ejercito Estrada.
Labor, Employment, Human Resource Development.
Senate number 2299, An Act Providing for a Comprehensive, Accessible, and Affordable Early Detection and Timely Intervention Services for Children with Mental Illness, Senator Ejercito Estrada.
Health and Demography.
Senate number 2300, An Act Restoring the Philippine Inventors Commission, defining its powers, functions, and duties for the encouragement of the generation, development, manufacture, promotion, and marketing of the Philippine inventions and for other purposes by Senator Ejercito Estrada.
Science and Technology, Ways and Means, Finance.
Senate number 2301, An Act Making Automated Teller Machines Accessible to the Visually Impaired Individual, Senator Ejercito Estrada.
Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies.
Senate number 2302, An Act to Regulate the Importation, Manufacture, Sale, and Distribution of Children's Toys, School Supplies, Childcare Articles, and other related products containing toxic chemicals, and for other purposes, Senator Ejercito Estrada.
Health and Demography, Trade, Commerce, Entrepreneurship, and Finance.
Senate number 2303, An Act Prescribing School Bus Safety Standards for other purposes by Senator Ejercito Estrada.
Public Services, Education, Arts, and Culture.
Senate number 2304, an act ensuring the occupational health, safety, and welfare of business process outsourcing, BPO, workers, and others similarly employed. Senator Ercito Estrada.
Labor, Employment, Human Resources Development.
Senate number 2305, an act professionalizing the practice of audiology and creating for this purpose a professional regulatory board of audiology, appropriating funds therefore, upgrading audiologic education, integrating audiologists, and for other purposes. Senator Ercito Estrada.
Civil Service and Government Organization Finance.
Senate number 2306, an act to promote the preservation and promotion of the country's rich artistic, cultural, and historical heritage, creating for the purpose a national film archive, amending for the purpose Republic Act 9167. Senator Ercito Estrada.
Public Information, Mass Media, Education, Arts, and Culture Finance.
Senate number 2307, an act to strengthen the promotion of intellectual property rights, defining for the purpose film piracy and film napping, providing penalties therefore and for other purposes by Senator Ercito Estrada.
Public Information, Mass Media, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship.
Senate number 2308, an act declaring the municipality of Talaingod, Davao del Norte as an eco-cultural tourism zone, establishing for the purpose the Talaingod Cultural Heritage Village, providing for its development and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Ligarda.
Environment and Natural Resources, Tourism, and Finance.
Senate number 2309, an act instituting a school nourishment and dietary program to all public elementary school students, providing funds therefore and for other purposes by Senator Soto III.
Education, Arts, and Culture, Ways and Means, Finance.
Senate number 2310, an act to assist the living condition of Filipino teachers and non-teaching personnel in the public elementary and secondary schools by increasing their minimum monthly salaries and appropriating funds for the purpose by Senator Grace Poe.
Education, Arts, Culture, Civil Service, Government Organization, Finance.
Senate number 2311, an act strengthening the code of conduct and ethical standards for public servants. Senator Grace Poe.
Civil Service, Government Organization, Finance.
Senate number 2312, an act to further strengthen the office of the Solicitor General, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 9417 and appropriating funds therefore by Senator Sani Angara.
Justice and Human Rights, Civil Service and Government Organizations, Finance.
Senate number 2313, an act promoting the production of outstanding and world-class Filipino motion pictures, providing incentives to filmmakers and actors claiming honors in international film competitions and for other purposes. Senator Ercito Estrada.
Public Information, Mass Media, Ways and Means, Finance.
Senate number 2314, an act institutionalizing a national employment facilitation service network for persons with disability through the establishment of a Persons with Disability Employment Facilitation Office in every province, key city, and other strategic areas nationwide. Senator Ercito Estrada.
Labor, Employment, Human Resource Development, Government, Local Government, and Finance.
Senate number 2315, an act promoting the creation of green-collar jobs, providing a strategic initiative for its implementation and for other purposes by Senator Ercito Estrada.
Labor, Employment, Human Resource Development, Environment and Natural Resources, and Finance.
Senate number 2316, an act establishing number portability for mobile telephone service by Senator Ercito Estrada.
Public Services and Finance.
Senate number 2317, an act providing for bicycle rights, creation of local bikeways office, establishing infrastructure in relation thereto and for other purposes. Senator Ercito Estrada.
Public Services, Local Government.
Senate number 2318, an act penalizing the imposition of no permit, no exam policy that prohibits students of post-secondary and higher education from taking their midterm or final examinations due to unpaid tuition and other school fees by Senator Ercito Estrada.
Education, Arts, and Culture.
Senate number 2319, an act promoting the development and use of free, open source of software, FOSS, in the Philippines and for other purposes by Senator Ercito Estrada.
Science and Technology, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship, Finance.
Resolutions. PS Resolution number 775, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on amending existing laws to address worsening trend of Filipinos having difficulty affording basic needs and services based on the results of the Iban Foundation survey covering the last quarter of 2013 and the first quarter of 2014 by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Social Justice, Welfare, Rural Development.
PS Resolution number 776, resolution directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the alarming report that the World Health Organization, WHO, has urged the government to increase its efforts against viral hepatitis, which could also lead to acute and chronic liver diseases. Senator Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography.
PS Resolution number 777, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported selling of endangered species over the internet. Senator Defensor Santiago.
Environment and Natural Resources.
PS Resolution number 778, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that some plastic bags used in local markets contain toxic metal by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography.
PS Resolution number 779, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported probable increase in the number of abandoned children fathered by United States servicemen in areas near their military bases in the Philippines by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Committee on Youth.
PS Resolution number 780, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that the Nautilus seashell is almost extinct in the Philippines by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Environment and Natural Resources.
Yes, Resolution number 781, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reports from the Philippine Animal Welfare Society and the Eco Waste Coalition that popular rubber band bracelets pose health hazards to pets and small children by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography.
Yes, Resolution number 782, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that some raincoats sold to school children contain high levels of toxic chemicals by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography.
Additional reference to business. Senate Concurrent Resolution number 6, entitled Concurrent Resolution Providing for the Legislative Calendar for the Second Regular Session of the 16th Congress of the Philippines, introduced by Senator Cayetano A.P.
Committee on Rules.
Committee Report number 58, submitted by the Committee on Health and Demography on Senate number 712, introduced by Senator Recto, entitled An Act Providing for the Mandatory PhilHealth Coverage for All Senior Citizens, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 7432 as amended by Republic Act number 9994, otherwise known as the Expanded Senior Citizens Act of 2010, recommending its approval without amendment. Sponsors Senators Gingona III and Recto.
Ordinary Business.
Second additional reference of business resolutions. PS Resolution number 783, entitled Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation about the status of the implementation of Republic Act number 7277 as amended, otherwise known as the Magna Carta for Persons with Disability, by Senator Marcos Jr.
Social Justice, Welfare, Rural Development.
Yes, Resolution number 784, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation and improving the protection of national heritage sites, such as the recent archaeological find in the province of Kalinga, by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Education, Arts and Culture.
PS Resolution number 785, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported ill effects of genetically modified eggplants on the health of the public, by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography, Agriculture and Food.
PS Resolution number 786, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that 7 Clark Airport workers were fired for pocketing discounted travel tax, by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Tourism.
PS Resolution number 787, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that flooding plagues tourism in Boracay, Senator Defensor Santiago.
Public Works.
PS Resolution number 788, directing this proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported need to prevent the extinction of ludong in the Philippines, Senator Defensor Santiago.
Environment, Natural Resources, Agriculture and Food.
PS Resolution number 789, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on proliferation of toxic metals in drinking glasses by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography, Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship.
PS Resolution number 790 directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the Department of Health's warning on the dangers of third-hand smoke. Senator Defensor Santiago.
Health and Demography.
PS Resolution number 791 directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that illegal drug syndicates use children as drug couriers by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Youth, Public Order, and Dangerous Drugs.
PS Resolution number 792 honoring and commending the outstanding Philippine soldiers TOPS of 2014 by Senator Sani Angara.
Rules.
PS Resolution number 793 directing the Committee on Education, Arts and Culture to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the availability of adequate basic learning resources nationwide. Senator Sani Angara.
Education, Arts, and Culture.
PS Resolution number 794 directing the Senate Committee on Cultural Communities and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an omnibus study and eventual updating in aid of legislation of existing policies concerning cultural heritage in the light of the reported road projects in Benguet which allegedly desecrated recognized burial caves of the tribes of Ibaloy, Kankanay, and the Kalangaya in the Cordillera by Senator Grace Poe.
Cultural Communities.
Yes, Resolution number 795 directing the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the Departments of Science and Technology and of Trade and Industry to look into the heartbleed bug, dubbed as the newest and biggest security flaw the Internet has ever seen, which threatens to steal vital online information such as usernames, passwords, uploaded contents, and even credit card information, and put in place measures to protect the public by Senator Grace Poe.
Banks, Financial Institutions, Currencies, Science and Technology.
Yes, Resolution number 796 directing the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on the reported proliferation of Filipino drug mules transporting drugs within Asia and other parts of the world by Senator Lapid.
Public Order and Dangerous Drugs.
Yes, Resolution number 797 directing the Senate Committee on Health and Demography and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on the reported utilization of contaminated heparin in dialysis machines at the National Kidney and Transplant Institute in Quezon City, which caused chills on at least 44 patients, with the end in view of protecting patients from the ill effects of said contamination by Senator Lapid.
Health and Demography.
Yes, Resolution number 799 condemning in the strongest sense the loss of innocent lives over the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight number MH17 over war-torn eastern Ukraine, claiming 298 innocent civilians, including 3 Filipinos, on 17 July 2014 by Senator Lapid.
Rules.
PS Resolution number 800 directing the Senate Committee on Education, Arts and Culture to inquire as to the status of the implementation of the Department of Education's Heritage School Building Restoration Program, particularly the conservation and maintenance of Gabaldon schoolhouses and other heritage structures within its jurisdiction by Senator Ligarda.
Education, Arts, and Culture.
PS Resolution number 801 congratulating the Iglesia Ni Cristo on the occasion of its 100th founding anniversary by Senator Ligarda.
Rules.
PS Resolution number 802 expressing the sense of the Senate that the Land Transportation, Franchising and Regulatory Board LGFRB Memorandum Circular numbers 2014-009 and 2014-010 and Board Resolution number 5 series of 2014 are legally flawed, and directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the issuances by the LTFRB, which together have resulted in unacceptable traffic gridlock along Katipunan Avenue, Quezon City, C5 Bagong Ilog, and C5 McKinley Hills, investigating the legal basis, if any, of such suspicious and stubborn insistence, wreaking irreversible prejudice to public transport safety but awarding benefits only to a few, and identifying those responsible for violating the Administrative Code and Executive Order number 202, among others, by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Public Services. The Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize Senator Pia Cayetano to avail of the privilege hour. She'd like to deliver a privilege speech, Mr. President.
Senator Cayetano is recognized. Akin na nga yung calendar na. Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized for the privilege hour.
Thank you, Mr. President. The title of my privilege speech is Breastfeeding, a Winning Goal for Life. Mr. President, my esteemed colleagues, I rise for a very short privilege speech, which I think is timely, being the first week of August. As sponsor of Republic Act 10028, the Expanded Breastfeeding Act, and a passionate breastfeeding advocate, it is my pleasure and privilege to update our colleagues and help educate the public on the importance of breastfeeding. Mr. President, the whole month of August is declared as National Breastfeeding Awareness Month in the Philippines, while the world celebrates World Breastfeeding Week from August 1 to 7. This year's theme from the World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action is Breastfeeding, a Winning Goal for Life. The theme seeks to assert the importance of increasing and sustaining the protection, promotion, and support of breastfeeding in the Millennium Development Goals, Countdown, and beyond. On August 1, I was in the Vicente Soto Memorial Medical Center to visit the maternity ward and attend the breastfeeding seminar and milk-letting activity that I organized. I will be delivering a more extensive privilege speech on breastfeeding next week, but in the meantime, I would like to invite our colleagues to several activities lined up for the celebration. On August 11, there will be a legislative briefing on infant and young child nutrition organized by my office in partnership with the Philippine Coalition of Advocates for Nutrition Security. Thereafter, we will launch a photo exhibit depicting the theme of this year's breastfeeding celebration, which will run in the Senate from August 11 to 20. This is in partnership with World Vision and Mr. Stanley Ong, a photographer, with his wife, Attorney Jenny Ong, who is a breastfeeding advocate. Finally, I'm also pleased to announce that my office, in coordination with the Senate Gender and Development Focal Group, will launch the Senate's very own breastfeeding room. Both launches will likewise be held on August 11 at 2 p.m. on the 5th floor of the Senate's new wing. I highly encourage my colleagues to be a part of these activities, starting by supporting the pregnant women in our lives, especially the women who work for us. I know that Senator Sani Angara is a breastfeeding supporter. He has been indoctrinated and has gone through that unforgettable experience. And if I may, although I was hoping to catch the attention of Senator Bam earlier, if I may say it publicly, I think Senator Bam is lucky to be the seatmate of Senator Sani Angara, so he can likewise be enlightened on how to be a supportive breastfeeding father soon. So, Mr. President, as I said, I will be delivering a more extensive speech on breastfeeding soon, and I expect Senator Bam to be the first one in attendance to support these initiatives. Thank you very much.
Majority Leader.
I know.
Mr. President, I don't know if it's an objection, but the Minority Leader wishes to be recognized.
The Minority Leader is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Will the distinguished lady yield to a few questions concerning the privilege speech he just mentioned?
If the gentle lady, the Senator from Taguig, will yield, the Minority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President.
Distinctly remember a few years, will the distinguished lady yield? Thank you. A few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago, we discussed this.
Yes,
and we were very enlightened with your speech. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Senator Enrile, the Minority Leader, who asked you that question about men breastfeeding, if men can breastfeed. The reason I'm asking you now is, earlier you said Senator Angara is now a
I call him a
breastfeeding
father. Yeah, a supportive breastfeeding father.
Does that mean he breastfeeds his children, mother?
Yes, thank you for asking that, because I really was hoping that we could discuss this further. Obviously, well, men do not have the capacity to breastfeed, but we consider breastfeeding a partnership. Yes. And so when we say men are breastfeeding partners or fathers, that means they are supporting their wives, because there's a lot of things that the men can do, and it's basically taking care of your wife so that she can take on the difficult task of breastfeeding 24/7, because it is a 24/7 job.
Yeah, now I'm glad I was able to ask a question. Now I remember the I think the interpellation during that time was about breast cancer, men having breast cancer also.
Yes,
right?
I'm also not so certain, because I know we talked about this, but I don't know, I can't recall exactly. But on breast cancer, if I'm not mistaken, we did put on record that breast cancer does happen to men, although it is not as prevalent as in women, but it can also happen to men.
So, well, that clears everything. Senator Angara does not breastfeed. No. He is a supporter of breastfeeding.
Yes, he is a father who has gone through the experience of supporting his wife while she breastfeeds. Therefore, I consider him a breastfeeding father.
Well, we used to do that too.
So
during our younger days.
You joined that elite club, which I feel is one of the most important clubs men should belong to.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Soto. The Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Angara says thank you for clearing it up. Mr. President, may we refer the speech and the interpellation to the Committee on Health.
The speech of Senator Pia Cayetano, and together with the interpellation, is referred to the Committee on Health.
Mr. President, with the consent of our colleagues in the Senate, I move that we consider Senate Concurrent Resolution number 6. This is our legislative calendar, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 6 is in order.
Mr. President, may you request the Secretary to read the title and the text of said measure.
The Secretary will read the title and the text of the measure.
Concurrent Resolution providing for the legislative calendar for the second regular session of the 16th Congress of the Philippines. Resolved by the Senate, the House of Representatives concurring that the legislative calendar for the second regular session of the 16th Congress of the Philippines be as follows. Calendar of session, second regular session. 1. Commencement of session, July 28, 2014 to September 26, 2014. 2. Adjournment of session, September 27, 2014 to October 19, 2014. 3. Resumption of session, October 20, 2014 to October 31, 2014. 4. Adjournment of session, November 1, 2014 to November 16, 2014. 5. Resumption of session, November 17, 2014 to December 19, 2014. 6. Adjournment of session, December 20, 2014 to January 18, 2015. 7. Resumption of session, January 19, 2015 to March 20, 2015. 8. Adjournment of session, March 21, 2015 to May 3, 2015. 9. Resumption of session, May 4, 2015 to June 11, 2015. The sine die adjournment. 10. Adjournment of session, June 12, 2015 to July 26, 2015.
Majority Leader, the Chair would like to make an inquiry addressed to the Chair of our Finance Committee, Senator Chis Escudero. May the Chair address a query to the Honorable Chair of the Finance Committee, as this calendar would be principally be influenced by the debates on the national budget. We note that there is the resumption of the session on October 20, 2014 up to October 31, 2014. We assume that by this time the printed copy of the General Appropriations Bill as approved by the House will be transmitted to the Senate.
That is correct, Mr. President. By that time, or at least the week of October 20, we will be getting a copy already from the House of Representatives, so they can begin plenary debates on that date.
Right. And there is a scheduled adjournment from November 1 to November 16. Would that cause any difficulty to the approval of the budget, Mr. Chairman?
I don't think so, Mr. President. However, our plenary debates on the budget will be split between the period before the adjournment of November 1 to 16 and the period after that. Baka may maiiwan pong ibang agencies na tatapusin pa lamang when we resume. But we will try our best, Mr. President, to finish it before we adjourn on November 1, if that is possible.
All right. I just wanted to place it on record so that...
I think the record, Mr. President, is when you were chairman, you were able to finish the deliberations in plenary in a week. So we will try to emulate and do that, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, Majority Leader.
With that clarification, Mr. President, I move. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I ask that we acknowledge the presence and welcome to the Senate Vice Mayor Noel Camus and Councilor Emilio Tapalla of the Municipality of Padre Garcia, Batangas.
Vice Mayor Camus and the accompanying officials are acknowledged.
Sir,
The presence is made of record.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also, Mr. President, we have Barangay 120, Caloocan City. The barangay officials led by Barangay Captain Antonio Duran, Kagawad Arturo Derecho, Kagawad Ernesto De Leon, Kagawad Magno Serrano Jr., Kagawad Romeo Pelayo, Kagawad Carmelita Quiris, Kagawad Amelia Cabardo, and Kagawad Rebecca Orozco. Mr. President, for the record, these are the officials of the barangay that had a big fire, hit there, and they are organizing assistance and help for their kababayans or their constituents in their barangay.
We welcome the barangay officials to the Senate. Maraming salamat po at asahan niyo po ang aming tulong sa inyo.
Mr. President, we were going to take up the Senate Joint Resolution number 2 under Committee Report number 4, the subsistence allowance of all officers and enlisted personnel of the AFP, but some members are working on their amendment, so the chairman of the committee, Senator Trillanes, agreed that we will be doing this tomorrow. Also, Mr. President, the interpellation of Senate Bill number 2210 under Committee Report number 24, Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Program. The chairman, Senator Bam Aquino, has communicated with this representation that some members have approached and they need more time, and they have other suggestions also for this bill. So we'll be taking this up at some later time. Lastly, Mr. President, as agreed on the meeting of the House and the Senate, and as the Senate President manifested during his speech in the opening of the session, that one of our missions will be to regain the trust of our people and to pass legislation that will truly be felt by our people. Directives or guidelines on the budget process. So even during the break, Mr. President, there will be a lot of committee hearings, both from the House and the Senate, on the budget. So with that manifestation, Mr. President, we have already approved the legislative calendar. Sir President, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, August 5, 2014.
Any objection? Hearing none. Session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, August 5, 2014.